The recording there. I'm so glad you're on here. It's so exciting. So just to get started, I'll let people who maybe don't know me, I'm Jamie Good, the Digital Fluency Coach. I'm up here in Ontario, Canada, and it's a very gray, rainy, cold, windy day out today, but it's perfect for being inside and doing live streaming interviews. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling everyone who you are, what you do, and etc., whatever you like, that'd be great to get started.
Well, I'm Aliza Sherman. I am a web pioneer, which is something that somebody called me back in the early 90s when I first got online and started helping other people, particularly women, get online through Cybergirl and Web Girls. So I started the first woman-owned internet company. I've written 10 books so far, many of them about business and the internet.
Awesome.
And my 11th book is going to be co-written with Beth Cantor. It's called The Happy, Healthy Nonprofit. And some of the chapters will actually cover some of the things that we're talking about right now, but from a nonprofit standpoint.
Oh, awesome.
So we're just dividing it up into sectors. I think I'm becoming a mindful technology coach. I've been asked by a lot of people to help them figure out how to be more productive with less use of technology, leveraging technology in a better way so they're not distracted and stressed out. And I'm really enjoying that work now.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's awesome. It's like I see a lot that you have like life tech zen, kind of like this mix of the three, and I think that's awesome because it's one thing that I've always tried to learn is, okay, I want to be online, I want to connect, but I don't want to spend 24 hours a day doing it.
Yes, I think we all are looking for ways to be more effective and more efficient. Some of us, like me, we love our technology. We love our apps, but we've become sort of hyper dependent on it. And even to the point of no longer having an awareness of it. So I think you probably hear a lot of people talk now about mindfulness, and they think, oh, I must meditate. Well, mindfulness is not about meditation. It's about having an awareness of what we're doing to our bodies, what we're doing to our minds, what we're doing to our relationships with ourselves and with other people because of that compulsive way that we're connecting to and relating to our technology.
Yeah, very true. I'm actually really happy that the mindfulness kind of movement, I guess, is being talked about more and more. LinkedIn, I see it. Twitter, I see it. Facebook, I see it. Because I think it is a super important thing just in terms of life in general, outside of tech apps, whatever. It's just I think an important thing to just have in general. Like I might show you real quickly, my tattoo there is remember to breathe.
Wow. Yes. Look at that.
Because I think it's such an important thing to remember as being mindful and paying attention to your breath. And I find sometimes, like I even notice you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, and there's all these reactions going on about something in the news. And I feel my breathing up here. It's shallow.
Or you hold your breath, or you hold your breath as if it's going to help you focus more and improve more if you're not breathing.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. And this is becoming... Well, right now I'm reading a whole lot about this as I'm doing the research for this next book, but our brains are being rewired and our bodies are being reformed in a not so good way. In fact, my chiropractor, my doctor, they've all been telling me that the chronic problems I have now in my shoulders, not my wrists, which are the typical ones you think of, but neck and shoulders is down on the device, hunched over at the computer, and we're not moving around. We're really, I at least can sit for 8 hours straight and never take a break. That is a really dangerous thing for all of us. All the studies I'm reading now are just scaring the bejesus out of me because it's the things that we're now just not thinking about and we're just doing, and it's getting away from us.
So true. So I have my friend is a physiotherapist, and I've been going to her because I have like an issue, and it always gets worse when I've been working really hard on my website or a new course or something like that. And she knows, like she'll ask me like, have you been sitting in your computer a lot more in the last few days? And I'm like, yes, because she she can tell the difference, and I can too sometimes at the end of the day. And the other thing is that it affects our breathing when we're hunched over a laptop.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest issues is we like to be mobile. Like you have a MacBook Air, I'm on a MacBook Pro right now. And just that laptop position is kind of forcing us to be curved, and then our breathing gets affected and everything. So one of the things I do is I use and on the iPhone I was using 30/30. And now on my Android, I'm using Do Now.
Tell me 30/30.
30/30, I think I found out from you in one of your newsletters a couple of years ago.
It sounds so familiar.
and so it's basically like you put your tasks in this timer, and you give them a certain amount of time that you want to work on such and such. It's kind of like the Pomodoro technique, but you get a little more leeway with it. And so Do Now is a similar app where it's focused on that Pomodoro idea of 20 or 30-minute focused work, 5-minute break, then another focused period of work, then a 5-minute break. And I'm trying the night before, like so for example, last night, enter in the task that I've got for the next day with the breaks. Yeah. And then in the break, when the phone goes off, I really try to at least sit back and just stretch my shoulders back, open my chest, maybe stretch up, just at least do that. I try to do, maybe go downstairs for a drink of water, maybe put a few, bit more of the laundry away or something, but just to, and I think neuroscience is also saying that this is good to just switch your brain to these different things and then go back to the focus work too. So I'm using the technology, hopefully in a good way, to remind myself to not sit for 4 hours.
Well, see, that's the other thing, is that I've spent so many years evangelizing the internet and technology to empower us. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm feeling and experiencing the repercussions of that, I'm evangelizing to move away from it in certain ways, but also to leverage it, to use technology more wisely, more thoughtfully, so that it helps you do those things, such as get up and move around. There's a little Chrome add-on, a plugin that you can use for a site called Fitbolt, fitbolt.com. Mm-hmm. And it reminds you not just to get up every 15 minutes and move around, but it gives you very specific exercises that you can do. And then you can rate the exercise. So then it learns what you like to do. And it's everything from deep knee bends to push-ups on the wall. And it continually tells you every 15 minutes to let you know. Now, I've gotten the habit of ignoring it. So you have to not fight the technology that is going to help you.
Yeah. But that's one of the things too. I find I will see the thing going. I'm like, oh, I'm right in the middle of something. And then sometimes I will ignore it, unfortunately. But I think it helps though with what we're talking about with being mindful, where I'm a bit more aware than I would have been, let's say, a couple of years ago when I didn't ever really think about this, where I would sit for just all day in front of my computer. Yeah. So at least now I have a little bit more sense of it. And sometimes, so I will plan now, for example, to go where I can stand and work for the morning. Or I have, in my condo, there's a gym upstairs with some treadmills, and I went to a craft store and they sell foam, right? So they got these like massive pieces of foam, and it sits perfectly on top of the rails of the treadmill. And I just put my computer on top, and then I just walk really slow and basically have my DIY treadmill desk. So it works.
Wow. Okay. Very creative. I think part of what you're talking about too is it's an awareness. Be aware of how you're using your technology and how your body feels, how your brain feels. Mm-hmm. And then after you've got the awareness, is coming up with a plan and carving out specific times to have relief, specific techniques like this treadmill desk DIY, specific techniques to help change things. It's all about mind shift and reworking your habits. Mm-hmm. In the same way that we try to diet or we try to get into a fitness habit, we need to get into a tech wellness habit so that we're not destroying our wellness. Yes. So it's, be aware, then get a plan going, then make some specific changes. I mean, I told a friend of mine who was waking up every morning and checking notifications on his iPhone. I said, just buy an alarm clock instead of waking up to your iPhone. And he went and bought one of those old-fashioned alarm clocks. You remember those?
Yeah.
And he said, wow, the world still goes on without me if I don't check my notifications first thing. And I think that's being aware and reworking it and setting things up so your environment helps and supports better habits.
Yeah, for sure. I've been thinking of getting an alarm clock too, just for that single reason.
There's this wonderful website I've got the catalog over at my desk. It's Zen alarm clocks. And it wakes up, you can wake up to a light bell sound that increasingly gets louder. If you can wake up to the sound of running water, which might be kind of unusual. But those ambient sounds, you can wake up to something different than that typical bracing, crazy alarm sound, just to ease into your wake-up routine.
That's a great idea. That's a really great idea. So one of the things that you're mentioning, it was changing tech habits, and I have seen a change in the last 4 years, like since I've started following you and getting into Twitter. What are maybe some very specific or obvious changes that you think of making all this difference over the last 4 years?
Are you talking about globally what's making these changes happen, or just individually, like how one could make the changes happen?
Maybe both. One of the things I think that is why we're seeing so much more about mindfulness, so much more about treadmill desks, about standing desks, about sitting is the new smoking, I think is because we're having a realization, but I also think that our tech habits are changing. So for example, maybe let's say 5-6 years ago, you didn't see everybody walking around like this with a phone like you do nowadays. And so we just didn't even have that physical habit of being in that position as much. So that kind of thing, I'm thinking like, what maybe do you view as like some of the habits that we're changing in terms of how we're using the technology?
I think more than anything, what you need to realize, and anyone who's been involved with technology and the internet for more than 10 years, for example, what you see is there is a cycle. So there's a cycle of the sort of the introduction at the early adopter level of something. Then it begins to go to the masses. And as that begins to happen, the way we do things and think about something like technology changes. So there's sort of an evolution. And then there becomes this little section called the backlash. And I think we're hitting a backlash right now. And this happens with almost every technology that we've ever really adopted. And it could be anything from a particular website like Friendster, if anyone remembers that, or it could be a different kind of the reduction of our cell phones into smaller sizes, into our computer in our hand. So we're at that stage right now where the way we're holding and handling our technology is having a huge impact on our physical well-being. The way that we're really compulsive about using the technology is affecting our brains. So to me, it's this sudden awareness that we are not well. And frankly, I've got to tell you, lots of people have no idea. Lots of people are just going along as if it were nothing. This is like this little subversive wave of people who care about wellness.
Yep.
So we're sort of talking in our own little circles to preaching to the converted when there are so many people. I mean, I go on date night with my husband in town. Every couple I see is not looking at each other. Every couple I see is looking at their device, whether it be waiting in line, at the movie theater, sitting across from one another at dinner. I rarely see people anymore, couples, looking at each other and talking.
Yeah, same here.
Which is
so scary.
And yet, completely unaware. Until I go over and take a picture of them, and then all of a sudden they wake up. And I think another another piece of it too, though, is we're not calling anyone on it. We're not calling ourselves on it, but we're also not calling other people on it. We've come to almost accept what 5-10 years ago we would have called rude or unhealthy.
Yeah.
We would, we now call people on smoking. Oh, I can't believe you're smoking. Oh my gosh, put out that cigarette. But we don't call people out on ignoring everyone around them or the person with them. So I remember visiting a friend of mine. I see her maybe once or twice a year, and she was on her iPad when we were sitting in her living room talking, and she kept looking down and kept looking down. And I thought to myself, is she not aware? And I said nothing. 6 months later, I went to visit her. Same thing happened. And I said nothing. And then finally, I called her on it. I said, look, I love you and I want to see you and I want to be able to connect with you. But did you realize this is what you're doing? And she had no idea. She had no real awareness of that. Wow. So we're not calling other people out on this. And I think that we would do everyone a really good service if we did. Now, some people will get really angry, I'm sure.
Totally. But yeah, it's true. But but in reality, like when you maybe are talking to someone about this and when you confront someone about this, you are actually helping them become aware of just their health. Like, so, but anyways, you can always do that with people about smoking or anything and they will still get angry.
Be careful.
So be careful
that's telling a stranger this. Be careful going up to somebody on the street.
Yeah. But I think it would be such an awesome Instagram account if you just took pictures of all these couples not paying attention to each other.
Started gathering them for that very purpose. I think it's a Tumblr, though. It's a Tumblr.
Yeah. I love it. There's John here is going to take this open.
Yeah,
do you mind if I just and we'll see what he was writing here on the side about how much time we spend behind the screen, and I'm like, that statistic scares me, but it's probably accurate.
Hey, John, where are you calling from? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just experienced because I've got a blab that's going on at 12, and I'm going to actually speak about this. I gathered some very interesting information that the average person spends 12 hours behind some sort of screen. Now, a lot of people are like, 12 hours, no way. But think about how many people who basically have their 9 to 5. They're behind the screen. They get home, check the computer, the iPad, the iPhone, they're behind some sort of screen. And no place is more prevalent than the home business because people, they're running off their computer. And I tell my clients, any more than 2 hours at a time without taking some type of 20 or 30-minute break, disconnect, go and do something else. Yeah. One, it's great for your mind. Two, it gets the blood flowing back to your lower extremities. And when you said that sitting is the new smoking, I believe it. I really, really believe it. And then that doesn't even count what they're doing on the weekends, Facebook or whatever. And,
did you mention television as well, though? Because think about it. Our entertainment now is all about screens.
Yeah, and I didn't mention it because we've got a big one here, but I hardly ever watch it. But yeah, it's some sort of screen, computer screen, iPhone, iPad, or TV. Mm-hmm. And, people who when you sit so long, you end up having circulation problems, which I'm sure that just leads to all kinds of problems. But, checking email. I try to check it once or twice a day, because I know Brendan Burchard, and I wrote this little quote I wrote down. It says, your email inbox is nothing more than a prioritization mechanism for the agendas of other people.
Wow, I love it.
Totally agree.
But anyway, I saw the disconnect, reconnect, and I saw y'all talking, so I just I had to chime in. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Got to get up and get moving.
So may I ask you a question, John? What do you do to make sure that you're not hunched over
a
computer
for 4 hours? There is this website called Egg Timer. I don't know if you know it or heard of it. But anyway, you can go on it. It's its own little web page, and you set it for every how many minutes. And even if you close it out, it will beep. So every 20 minutes, I'll go up and do something different for 10. So in the course of 3 to 4 hours of work, I take a 10-minute break every 20 to 30 minutes. That's 10, 20, that's 40 minutes total, but I find out that I'm actually getting more done had I not taken those breaks. But it's like in college when I try to cram for something. I read this interview that said your mind is most receptive to learning at like 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning. And when you do that, take 20-minute breaks instead of straight through. And I think it just applies. And I have one client, she's a copywriter, and all she does is sit behind her computer. And I tell her every 20 minutes, get up and do 10 or 15 body weight squats. Next time, do push-ups or something, just anything. But because I see it, and I think what your idea of snapping photos of people in public who are what, and just starting an account, I think that would be great. I would follow it.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, I want to.
Thanks, John.
I'm going to go because I've got to get ready for mine. But I just want to chime in. Thanks for allowing me.
Okay, someone's asking you that after you're gone, if you can just type in that quote into the
let me.
It's
going to take a second because I wear a size 13 ring, so my hands are a little. But I will definitely do that before I cut out of the room. How's that?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Have an awesome day.
Yeah,
Cheers.
That's. I'm interested in knowing. I was going to ask him what does he do, and he has clients and he's advising them on these things. And we should make sure he sees the Fitbolt because that's a little bit more fitness oriented than the timer. But the timer one, timer, that's great.
I'll just I'll write a note to him here to check the Fitbolt. Fitbolt.com, right? Yeah, that's I want to check that out myself. So one of the things that you have been talking about lately that I've seen in your newsletter and tweets, etc., is and I remember it becoming kind of a trendier hashtag a couple of years ago is unplugging or the unplug. And so based on seeing that in your feed and in your newsletters, I started to think about it. And so I started actually putting in my calendar blocked off times where I unplug. So I tried at first just to do it like I think I began with Sunday night from like 7 until I went to bed to not have any kind of, like he says, screen in front of me. It's so hard because I live with someone who teaches communication technology. So in our house we have, I don't know, 4 laptops, 3 tablets, probably 6 smartphones. It's ridiculous, right? And so it's really, really hard to not look at a screen. So I was just wondering for you, do you block out chunks of time for the unplugging or how do you?
Yeah, I think it's several things. Part of it is environmental change. So I've created a charging station and I ask everyone in the household to put their devices there. So you walk in the door, there's a charging station. You can put your devices. It's got lots of little chargers on it. It's a perfect place to deposit it rather than carrying it around the house with you into each room. And I have a no electronics in the bedroom policy, although I continue to ignore that one at the moment. And my excuse is that I like to.
You're writing a book.
I like to watch my favorite TV show on Hulu on my phone. That's my vice. Although each time I do leave it outside of the room, I sleep better. And when I'm not watching a screen right before bedtime, I mean, there are studies now that show that kind of flashing screen light is detrimental to settling the mind and being able to get a restful sleep. So the less electronic devices and electronic lights that you have, your alarm, digital alarm clock, for example, display, all of those are interfering with your sleep. So part of it is environmental, making some specific changes, designating cell phone free or technology free zones in the house, and activities that are without electronics, such as board games. We're bringing board games back to the family play. So that's one of it, environmental. The other is ritual and practice. So not waking up and going straight for the email or straight for those notifications, turning off the notification sounds, because we're Pavlovian now. We hear the ding and everybody in the room looks to see if it's their device. So that's a piece of it. Now, in terms of scheduling, I haven't actually put it into the calendar, but I advise that to people who do struggle a lot with the habit breaking. is assign time each evening, each week, each weekend that is just disconnect time. But what I have done, we're in the process of adopting a young boy out of foster care, and the need to pay attention to my family is greater than ever. And so my weekends now are trying to be hands off of all electronics and being more hands on with family interactions. So you'll see less and less and less from me on Twitter, which is my favorite platform. And you probably over the last month have seen very little of me on Facebook. And that's a lot of that is because I realize the value in my life is what's happening at my home with the people I love versus this constant barrage. I don't want to contribute to the noise in my life and your noise as well.
Yeah, and that's a really good way of putting it. Like, I don't like the noise myself, so I don't want to be one of those people who's actually
making the noise,
contributing to that. And I just want to go back to what you said about the screens at night. When I learned about that, I was like, oh my God, this makes total sense, because it's like this bright light that kind of mimics sunshine to your brain. So one of the things, I just did a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and I was just suggesting some certain apps. And I use Twilight, and I don't know if it's iOS and Android, but I have it on Android. And what it does, and you can schedule it based on the time zone you're in and when the sun goes down and comes up and all that kind of thing. I don't usually schedule. I just hit it like manually myself. But what it does is it creates a dimming effect on your screen, and it changes the light to a red light, that red light that doesn't interrupt that what's going on with your brain. And then so like I can actually show you what it looks like. Okay. So here's my phone, and when I turn it on, you see how red it goes? And so that has actually really helped me to sleep better at night, because I do sometimes check things before I go to bed, unfortunately. But at least if I am going to do that, now this is a little bit a better way of doing it. And one of the people in my workshops wrote me on LinkedIn about 2 days ago and said, thank you for recommending that app. I've been sleeping much better since I started using it. So I was like, okay, that is awesome. It's something very simple that you can do, but it does really work for me. And I try, like you said, in the morning. Now I'm trying to get up and go right to my journal and do like 3 pages of like morning pages, just get stuff out of my head and just handwrite and like get that movement going, and then sit, deep breathe for a little bit, and then maybe jump into the technology. Because I mean, I am building a business. I do have to, I'm called the digital fluency coach. So I need to be on the device eventually, but I try to start my day without it, because you can get sucked into a black hole so easily and so quickly. And then 3 hours later, you're like, oh my God, I didn't even shower yet.
What you're doing, especially pen to paper, a lot of us have forgotten how to hand write. And returning to that can be incredibly healthy. And that helps rewire your brain back to working other pathways in your brain, which eventually will help you in so many ways, helps you with focus, helps you with creativity and productivity, helps you with motivation. I even tell people that these new popular coloring books for grownups that are just everywhere now, but there is actually some benefit to coloring, to doing that kind of intricate color work. And even the staying within the lines. I love the idea of not staying within the lines, but that, again, it reworks your brain. So a lot of this is about changing habits and your practices and having rituals. So some people do really, really well with small incremental changes, and then coming up with things that they repeat each day that gets them out of the bad habits. Other people work out better cold turkey. Just go for the gusto. Just do not touch your cell phone this entire weekend and see how you do. See if you survive. See if the world continues without you connecting like that. So whichever works best for you, there's no one single right way. It's understanding our own personalities, our own needs. You said you're a digital fluency coach. You cannot fully and totally disconnect and ignore technology, but you can do it in a more healthful way.
Yes. One of the things that I find that works for us, my partner and I, is sometimes we've just gone on like road trips, or we were in Greece in the summer, and we just couldn't connect. Like when I was on the East Coast, the Wi-Fi and the 3G was so bad that I just gave up. And I was only wanting to connect because I had a couple of workshops upcoming after the vacation. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting maybe emails. But when I realized after about 3 or 4 days that I hadn't really connected, it was interesting. We were driving down this road and we were looking for moose to see if we spotted any moose. And I said, you know what? It's been so great to be 3 or 4 days without the Kardashians, without news about Kanye West, without Taylor Swift. Like, it was so nice to just be removed from all of that stuff that just comes at you, even if you don't want to see it. Like, I mean, my friends aren't really into that, but it just comes in anyway. Like, it's just the algorithms.
It invades your feed. It invades your feed. In fact, all the feeds now that we get are manipulated, and none of us are really cognizant of this. We're no longer seeing what's really actually happening at that moment, and certainly not the things that we truly are interested in. It's all algorithmically fed to us based on what the algorithm thinks we want to see. And so that is a very huge danger too, because we're getting this false sense of our new news reality. So I think a lot of this is an understanding. It's technology literacy. It's an understanding of how the technology we're using works for us and works against us, and understanding that there's both sides to this. I think one of the biggest things that I'm trying to do is to take little baby steps toward a change, and to guide other people through those kinds of positive changes. I mean, I guess when you hit 50 and beyond, you suddenly are on this other side of sort of life's path, and you think, okay, wow, did I waste my time? Am I wasting my time? And distraction does create a waste of time. And when time becomes incredibly precious, you realize you want to get more out of that than out of these compulsions and these distractions and these, frankly, now I'm comfortable using the word addictions. Back in the 90s, when the media said everyone's going to be addicted to the internet, I laughed. Now I'm not laughing as hard as I laughed before.
That's true, and I really like how you're like connecting this to like the distractions. I believe too, like they become like a waste of time, and you reflect back. And we had this discussion just 2 nights ago. It's so funny that you stated it in that way. Where I started when I was unfollowing people on Twitter. I started then unfriending a bunch of people on Facebook. I did a purge basically, and I was tweaking my LinkedIn timeline too to like not view people who are just sharing junk all the time. And I said to my partner, I go, in about 10 years, when I look back on these years now, I don't want to look back at all the time I spent on Facebook. I don't. I want to look back at the fun times around board games. I want to look back at the times I went to the forest and fed the chickadees by hand. I want to look at these times where I walked on the beach. I don't want to look back on the Facebook things. And it's so interesting, I think, that when you're ready for things, that things start coming into your life. So just today, I saw an article this morning about a scientist or a study in Denmark has proven that people who took a week off of Facebook had their happiness rating and level go up. And so a couple of my friends saw that and I said, hey, you know what? Let's do, we're probably aiming for 1st of December where we'll do a week off Facebook. It's so kind of ironic, but we'll create a Facebook event for this so that other people can sign up and just say, okay, starting today, get off Facebook for a week. And then after that week, we're going to come back and reflect on it. We're actually going to have a blab to talk about how did it go? How did we feel? Did we feel like we missed it? Were we itching to get back on there again? And it's going to be a really interesting experiment because I love Facebook for connecting. My mom's on there, my cousin, my friends and that. But at the same time, I find sometimes that when I'm scrolling through, I'm just like, I realize that after my thumb has gone about 10 swipes, I'm thinking, I'm obviously not seeing anything of value here, and this is just wasting my time.
Now think about it. Just pause for a moment and think about this conversation and this exercise that you're about to embark on. We we weren't talking about this 5-10 years ago. There wasn't a need to do it 5 or 10 years ago. So there are changes, good changes and bad changes that have occurred. And some of us are trying to get a grip on that. And so it has changed the conversation. It's changed so many things, including how we talk about and relate to our technology and to each other. I was going to say, when you were talking about Greece and your travels and looking for moose, I'm really telling a lot of people now, get a camera. We are so enamored with the fact that we no longer need a camera. Hey, we've got it right there in our smartphone. But you can put your smartphone away and still take pictures. We all used to take pictures before smartphones had cameras. We did it with a camera. And so that is just a simple, tiny change that you can actually just sort of revert back to. And the wonders and the beauty of taking photos with cameras. Sure, it's a digital camera these days, but just a camera, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I'm seeing behind you all these books on the shelf too, and it's making me think, like, I see Catherine on the side is talking about reading before she falls asleep. And when I got my Kindle, I was like, I will never touch a paper book ever again in my life, because I just love that I could take this thin little device with me that had 100 books on it if I wanted. But now sometimes at night when I see my phone says to me, because it's like my calendar notification, unplugged, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get off the device. Then now what I do is I do grab a paper, like an actual physical book, because I just know that I will be learning and I'll be stimulating my brain, etc. But I won't be tempted to go into another app or to do, some other thing, or have that screen just interrupting the possible good sleep that I could have. So even though I'm not a big fan of actually holding onto a book, I do force myself to do it now, just
which
so
is
I can
great.
get away
and
from
I
the
actually
device
on my nightstand, I have stacked a series. CJ Box, who writes these Wyoming-based murder mysteries. It's a great series, and I'm very enamored with it. And so I have the physical paperback books stacked up as a visual reminder that I can reach for that book. And the physical act of holding it, it's becoming a foreign feeling. But for some of us, a familiar sort of return to a grounding and rooted feeling, to have something physical, tangible, that's not metallic, plastic, glass. So I do have this series that I'm working through little by little, and it's a respite. It's this breather for my brain, my mind, even my eyes. Because these are a fairly new need because of, I believe, a lot of this eye strain from all of the screens as well.
Yes. Yeah, one thing I saw years back was the fact that being in front of the screens all the time is going to create a bigger need for glasses and optometrists. Because when we think about, you've tried to take a picture of a screen, but you can never get a good picture because it's always like it's actually moving, but you don't see that until you try to take a picture. It's apparently not that great for our eyes. It's constantly
going, and we're sort of the naked eye doesn't see it, like you said, but because of this, our eyes are exhausted. And we say, oh, we have a headache. Yeah. Oh, I always think I'm dehydrated because I live in Arizona. But the fact of the matter is, I'm looking at a screen 8 or 10 hours a day, and it's constantly moving, and my eyes are constantly moving to keep up. Again, it's awareness. Yeah. It's pausing, taking that breath, and thinking, how does my body feel? How does my mind feel? How's my brain behaving? What is my day like? What's my evening like? What's my nighttime like? It's taking that time and evaluating it, and then making those changes in order to disrupt this bad spiral of unhealthy tech behavior that we've all pretty much fallen into.
Yes. And it's interesting that, like you say, if we start to call people out on it, like as you're saying, as a society, we've kind of become addicted to this. It's kind of become a norm. And just maybe speaking up once in a while could be the new sort of activism. I see sometimes, I really love when I go to a restaurant, I see a group of 5 or 6 people and their cell phones are stacked in the middle. And I've heard that a lot of people will do that now, and they say the first person to grab their phone pays for everyone's meal. And I'm like, but like, make it fun. Like, don't make it like it's a punishment. Like, oh, this is so bad. Like, it's got to be like fun, and we've got to take the idea of play and put it back into all of this, I think, too. There is a question on the side from Joanne. I want to make sure we don't miss any questions. How can we help our kids not fall into the trap of mindless social media surfing and develop good habits rather than fix later in life? After all, it's not too sexy, this awareness thing to a tween.
we struggle with it constantly. Given everything I've been researching, writing about, and talking about, I still struggle with this at home. In fact, yesterday, I was really strict about, it's the day off, it's Veterans Day. After the Veterans Day parade, no screen time. Well, yeah, 3 episodes of Glee later. So we first have to pay attention to ourselves and our habits, because our children mimic us. They mirror us. They look at us and they try to be like us. And if they see us doing it, no excuse, no, oh, well, we're doing it because we're the parent, because we're an adult, because it's our business. No excuse is good enough. We must be role models. So that's when we look at ourselves and get to better habits, our children now have a good role model to follow. Now, in terms of mindfulness or awareness not being sexy to tweens, I have 2 tweens, and they're pretty enamored with the idea of yoga and meditation. So truly, you can change perceptions and change habits by introducing some techniques that, like you said, play. Play is one great thing. So pull out the coloring books, pull out the board games, pull out the baseball and the baseball bat, and get outside. Those are playful ways of introducing or reintroducing or reinforcing better habits. The charging station, that's really first and foremost. Well, okay, first and foremost is for me. Secondarily, it's for my kids. The last one on the list is my husband, because he has always been pretty adverse to technology. He's a wildlife biologist. But that charging station idea, create the environment where the kids aren't tempted. So, and you said the calendar, scheduling time for disconnecting. I also schedule time for specific screen time or no screen time. All of that, it's really just reinventing our environments and reintroducing our kids to the things that we know are healthy. I don't know, have you seen the Nature Valley commercial, I guess, about play? And it shows older adults, our age and older, talking about how they used to play as a child. I think people should take a look at that if they haven't. Just search on YouTube, Nature Valley play commercial. You'll find it. I cry every time I see that. And the reason why is it's so tragic how while we're so enthused about progress, we're also losing touch, and our children are losing touch. So start with yourself, start with changing your habits, become that really positive role model of healthy tech use, change your environment, provide alternatives. And believe me, even a tween's mind can shift and become more aware, more mindful, take that pause and be happy about it.
That is awesome. I love this. I'm so inspired now, and I'm gonna disconnect even more over the next few days. Just before we finish up, I'm just being mindful of your time, and that is that I was thinking when you were talking about a stack of books on the bedside table as a visual reminder, and then the charging station at the door. It sounds like, and I'm not so clear on this because I was just reading about the other day in terms of productivity, the idea of conditioning. So, for example, if I want to get some work done and I try to do that work at a place where I usually play and relax, like, for example, in my bed or like at the gym, for example, or somewhere where I actually enjoy to be there and relax usually, then neuroscience is saying that you actually won't get as much work done because your brain has been conditioned to see that place as a place of play or relaxation. And so I go to the library to work often. And when I'm there, I'm way more productive than I am at home with my kind of office bedroom. And so it sounds like with the visual cues of paperback books on the bedside table, charging station within the front door, and a few other things that you're saying about changing your environment, it sounds like it would be kind of basically a conditioning exercise for your brain as well. And
because we already have been
reconditioning.
So we've been conditioned in several ways. And the most important thing is our bedroom really is for sleep, for rest. Well, for one other thing too, but that's a healthy thing. But if you think about it, we have introduced the television into the bedroom. We then introduced the iPhone and the iPad into the bedroom. So it is reconditioning ourselves, changing the environment, and reconditioning that bedroom to be a respite, a haven, a place away from noise and distraction, from bright lights, from news feeds. That gives us a safe place. And so our office, if that's going to be a productive workplace, let's set it up to be productive. And like you said, the changing up of environments can stimulate new ways of thinking. So being at the cafe versus being at the library versus being out at the park, each one of those environments we could do work in. And by changing up our environments, we're rewiring our brains.
That's really smart. Wow, I'm really looking forward to what comes out of the writing you're doing.
Well, it's exciting, and I'm learning a lot, and I also get very overwhelmed and very scared by all of it too. It's daunting. I mean, this is a global epidemic, and people are coming to the realization at different speeds. So right now, like I said, so many people are completely unaware. So we could do our loved ones a favor after we do ourselves a favor. Look at yourself first, make some changes, and then look at your loved ones next and support them in making some positive changes. And if you're feeling lucky, go make a comment once in a while to a stranger, or take that picture and send it to me of the people who are engrossed in their device and not living in that moment. And I'll put it up on the Tumblr.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll try to find, there was a link. I'll try to find it again. There was a man who took pictures of people in positions as if they had a smartphone in their hand, but the smartphone was taken out of their hand. He photoshopped it all out. So it's this incredible view, because basically what it has is that, for example, a family sitting out in their family room, there's 4 of them all on the sofa, and they're all looking down at their hands, but there's nothing there. And it's such an incredible, basically a commentary on what's going on, because he's saying basically if you didn't have that there, you would look so stupid because no one's interacting with each other. And so I'll try to find that link and send it your way, because it's just a fascinating, and it might just help spur on some more thoughts for you in terms of what you're working on there. So, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Like I said, I've been following you since like day one, pretty much since I've been on Twitter. And this
I'm so excited too. I've watched your transformation. So over the years, from just questioning to not only questioning, which we always should do all the time, but to now putting out there a lot of your thoughts and ideas about these topics. And it's great. It's very exciting. And I love your perspective. So keep it
up. Oh, thank you. Amazing. Thank you. Yeah. Well, let's keep in touch after this. And I will be putting the recording up on YouTube with a post. I will also have some show notes along with it that you can contribute to if you'd like. And I take from the chat on the right-hand side there and enter some of that stuff in too. So that quotation that John shared, for example, I will add it to that. And when it's ready, I'll definitely let you know.
This is great. Thanks, everybody, for participating.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in. I really appreciate the participation as well. And everybody have a great day and try to disconnect tonight.
Bye.
Cheers.